Hey folks, it's Abby from Abby of Pellinor, and today I have a little bit of an announcement to make. So I am going to be one of the co-hosts for the MiddleEarthAthon. This is being hosted by Lizzie from Lizzie is Elf, and I am so excited for this. So we have all us co-hosts been split into different categories. So to go through, Hannah from LotR of course has to be different and therefore is the Witch King. Hannah Ryan is the head of the Hobbits. Danny is the head of the men, Amina is the head of the elves, and I am the head of the dwarves. So all of us all have our own different prompts to go along with the readathon, and you can pick whichever one of us that you want to join and which prompts you think work best for you. Or you can try and do all the prompts. Either way. So I will have linked down below in the description Lizzie's announcement video as well as the announcements from everyone else and all their channels. Please do go check them out so that you can decide which realm you want to go into. But this isn't just, hi, we're doing this. I have some details to give you. The readathon is going to be taking place from the 26th of August to the 2nd of September. We're going to have live shows, we're going to have a Twitter account. Everything that you need will be linked down below or in Lizzie's video, and we really do hope that you come along. And now it's time to go into my prompts. I'll leave the other prompts for everyone else to announce their own, but for the dwarfish prompts, the reason that I have the dwarf prompt is because I have a master's in geohazards, ergo rocks, so they all thought we'll give Abby the rock one, and you know what? That's fair. My first prompt is Thranduil.
You would try to reason with the dwarf.
A foiled or shiny cover. So you can go a few different routes for this. For example, you can go incredibly shiny. I have A Sky Painted Gold by Laura Wood. This is a YA historical fiction set in the 1920s. You can go Ink by Alice Broadway. This is a YA dystopian. You can go with Orphan Monster Spy. They're all YA, these ones. This is a YA historical fiction set in World War II. Or you could go for Eve of Man by Giovanna and Tom Fletcher. And this is a dystopian where there's only one woman left alive. Those are all real shiny, but you don't have to go quite so in depth. For example, we have Other Words for Smoke by Sarah Maria Griffin, which has the shine here on the leaves, and this has some fantastic LGBT rep and some feminism in it in terms of the Magdalene schools. It is a magical world where an owl living inside the wallpaper talks to some people who end up moving into family's house and shit goes down. It's fantastic. And then there's also The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. This one has got some foiling here, just a tiny little bit, on the front cover. This is a fantasy, sci-fi, dystopian, there's so much, with some fantastic LGBT representation in here, with the main character being demisexual. Then from some authors of colour, a book I didn't like but would count, This Woven Kingdom by Tehera Mafi. I don't know, I think the other cover isn't foiled, but it's gold. So if you've got the regular non-Lumicrate cover, that still totally counts. I didn't like this, but it is a YA fantasy, if anyone wants to read it. Then we've got Mrs. Death, Mrs. Death, which is a book all about death. What is the word? Fucking hell. Possessing. Fucking hell. This is all about death possessing someone called Rolf and writing all about death in their world, like across the UK, Northern Ireland, etc. And this one has got actual foiling on there if you've got the hardcover, but even if you don't, the colour is gold on here. It's not foiled, but it's gold, you know? It's got the vibes. I mean, I'm saying this, Piranesi's right there. That's foiled. Again, this unfortunately only works if you have the hardcover, but The Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Vulu. This is a... It's a YA historical fiction set in the early noughts. This brings me pain. Written by an Indigenous author. I thought this was fantasy when I went into it, that's why I picked it up, and I adored it. It's amazing. And yes, once again, the title is foiled on the spine if you have the hardcover. And who could forget Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston, a fantastic black middle grade book. It's sci-fi and fantasy, and it's essentially like a fantastical Men in Black. So good, so good. I adored this so much, and yeah, absolutely stunning foiling on pretty much every edition of this. And then, oh, Jesus Christ. And then lastly, for this prompt, we have the books that have disability rep in them. This is kind of how I've grouped them so you can get some good diversity in your reads this month. So, first up we have one that a lot of you will have already read, but just in case you haven't, Six of Crows. Mine has very light foiling, but Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This is a YA high fantasy heist novel, and we have a disabled main character in here. He has a limp, and he also has an aversion to touching other people's skin, so he wears gloves all the time. This is a beloved book for a read. Then Gallant by V.E. Schwab. Obviously there's a lot of different editions of this one, but at least mine has this here with the foiling on the spine. A lot of people have got various editions, but I'm sure they have foiling on, and this one has a main character with mutism. She can't speak. It is a middle grade / YA crossover, i.e. it's just younger YA, but no one seems to think of that anymore. Fantastical book where a young girl who is in an orphanage then goes to live in her family world, and it turns out like death has like a mirror world next to her family home and stuff like that. Then we have Pet by Akwaeke Emezi. So this kind of has everything rep in it. So we have a trans main character. Jam also has selective mutism, and also it's written by an author of colour. This is again a younger YA novel which follows a world which is supposed to be a utopia where everything is perfect and shiny and brilliant, but there is a monster and they track the monster down. I don't want to spoil it, it's a short book. And then two more for disability prompts that I don't own. The Boy Who Steals Houses has autism representation in it, and with that cover, although I don't have a physical copy, I bet you that's foiled. And then for cerebral palsy representation, we have A Curse So Dark and Lonely. This is shiny as hell. I have seen physical copies of this in the shop. Front cover, slightly shiny, spine, completely silver. So this would be a fantastic choice for the foiled shiny cover prompt. Yes, I did wear this shirt specifically because of this prompt. Leave me alone. Then for the second dwarvish prompt we have That Still Only Counts as One.
That still only counts as one!
So that is short story, compilations and anthologies. Only one that I have a physical copy of is this that I'm recommending to you guys, and that is Black Enough, edited by Ibiza Boy, but it has so many contributors: Renee Watson, Varian Johnson, Leah Henderson, Lamar Giles, Kekele Magoon, Jason Reynolds, Brandy Colbert, Tochi Onyebuchi, Liara Tamani, Jay Coles, Rita Williams-Garcia, Tracy Baptiste, Danielle Clayton, Justina Ireland, Co Booth, Nick Stone and Ibiza Boy. This is American-based and British, so just thought I'd mention this, but it is all stories about being young and black in the United States, which we all know is interesting. And it has some fantastic discussions about what it means to be black in the US and to live in this really racially charged environment. I think it's a fantastic read. I don't read that many collections of short stories and anthologies, so I had to go searching for some of these. I have read one of them, and that is Sabrina and Karina. I read this via ebook, and this is a collection of Latinx short stories about gentrification and living in a racially charged country in the US. This is a fantastic collection of short stories. I highly, highly recommend this one. I read it for Noria's Fuckathon, like back in 2018, and adored it so much. Then we have Hitting a Straight Lick with a Crooked Stick, which is African American authors about their folk culture, about racism, gender, class, everything like that. I've heard great things about this one. Honestly, I'm just adding all of these to my TBR. It's Not About the Burqa is another one that's been on my TBR for a while now, this one actually, and it is all stories about Muslim women living in the West and how they are treated by Western society and how Western society assumes they should be. So it's all about the burqa, kind of discusses all of those aspects and what it means to be a Muslim living in the West with so much Islamophobia and misogyny. Mothership, Tales from Afrofuturism and Beyond is by African and African American authors talking about Afrofuturism. It's speculative science fiction fantasy short stories. Love Beyond Body, Space and Time is a collection of short stories from Indigenous authors that also include LGBTQ+ and Two-Spirit representation in them. This has such a cute cover and so immediately went on my TBR. It sounds amazing. A Phoenix First Must Burn is a collection of YA, SSF, science fiction fantasy short stories written by authors of colour and also having a lot of LGBTQ+ representation. Her Body and Other Parties is a short story collection with a lot of feminist tones and LGBTQ+ representation throughout. This is one that I've heard is really dark, kind of close to the horror vibe, and I really want to pick it up. Vampires Never Get Old is a collection from 11 different authors, including authors of colour, and with a lot of LGBTQ+ representation in it, all about vampires. I haven't read a vampire story since Twilight, so this was actually on my TBR at some point last year, or maybe 2020, who knows at this point, and I just never managed to get around to it, so this is on my TBR. It has been for a bit. I'm pretty sure it's got a story from Donielle Clayton in there, and I love her writing, so I need to get around to this one. And then the only book that I could find that was a compilation of short stories or an anthology with good, well-known disability rep is Disability Visability. This has been on my Amazon wishlist for a long time now, and I actually gifted it myself to Olivia Savannah from Olivia's Catastrophe. It sounds amazing. It is US based, so it's all about living with disabilities in the United States. Of course that is going to be different than it is living here in the UK or other European countries where we have slightly more competent health systems than the US, and given the state of the NHS that is a statement and a half. So yeah, it discusses the difficulties that these people have with accessing healthcare and with just living their daily lives, and it's one that I've wanted to pick up for a long time now. So like I said, I only own one of these, I've only read 2 of them, but the rest of them all sound fantastic and have all went straight on my TBR. And for my final prompt we have Jiren Sons, which is the book that's been on your TBR for the longest.
We are sons of Durin.
So of course I can't really give you any recommendations for this one, it does depend on your own personal TBR, but I'm sure you'll be able to find something. So I'm thinking I've had the Eagle of the Ninth Chronicles book 2 and 3 in this bind up on my TBR since I was about 12. This could be a good shout. Then I've also had, since 2016, All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr on my TBR. So, and then there's also other ones like Dune. I've only owned for a few months, but has been on like, oh I'd like to read that, for years now. So there's a few different options for me to play with. That one depends on you completely, so no recommendations for that one. But there is an extra little bonus. So all of us have a little bonus, a little perk for whichever one you choose. And for me, for the dwarves, the bonus is that you can swap out any book on your TBR for the prompts for a shorter book instead, because dwarves. So you can pick any book that you've picked out for the TBR. So if you did pick All the Light We Cannot See, you know it's like 600 pages, 500 pages, and you might be like, I do not feel like reading that this month, it's too big. So instead I will swap it out for Tales of the City by Alma Sednobin. Nice and short. So that is the perk of being the dwarves. I'm not even the shortest person on the team, but still. So that is the little perk that you get for joining my team. I would love to hear down below, guys, if you're going to take part in MiddleEarthAthon. I will say, you don't have to have read The Lord of the Rings or any of the accompanying books to join in the readathon. I have had to rush and put them all on my TBR because I've never read them before. As of filming, I'm listening to the audiobook of The Hobbit, and then this very battered copy is my partner's dad's edition. It originally cost him £2.10 of all 3 books in The Lord of the Rings, and I am going to actually manage to get to this before August, just because I feel like I should, you know? I'm one of the hosts and I've wanted to read this for ages, so it's a perfect excuse to actually get me to sit down and read it. Although I might get an ebook copy instead. But yes, so you don't have to have read it, but the prompts will make a lot more sense if you have, or at least if you've seen the film. You know. So yes, put that back where it lives. Let me know in the comments if you're going to take part, which team you're going to be on, and if you're on my team, let me know what books you're picking for the different prompts. If you'd like to see some more from me, folks, about the readathon, then please do hit subscribe. If you'd like to learn more about the readathon in general, please check out the channels that I have linked down below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!